course. Welcome to No More Theory.
Right. So, basically we just want to have a conversation with you about your entrepreneurial journey and ask you questions about the different organizations you've worked with and sort of just like your life and get to chat with you.
Okay. Learn about your entrepreneurial adventures.
Yes, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So first of all, what's your full name?
Including my middle name?
Yes.
Sure.
Everything.
Yes.
In the Indian way?
Yes.
Yes. You know that's my favorite way.
My full name is Aditi Deshpande.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how old are you?
I am 21 years old. I am a fifth year at the University of Michigan.
Cool.
I major in cell and molecular biology and computer science. I'm also minoring in entrepreneurship.
Cool. Sweet.
What an accomplished woman.
Yes. Okay. What's your perfect breakfast?
Oh, jeez. I don't have breakfast usually.
That's a fine answer. So you don't
A
do
coffee.
A coffee. Okay.
So what's the best way to drink a cup of coffee?
A little milk, no sugar.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a hot take.
Really?
Yeah. I think if any. Well, no, this isn't about me. Anyway, when was your first exposure to entrepreneurship?
So my dad was actually a part of the entrepreneurship ecosystem back in Singapore. So he used to kind of meet up with entrepreneurs and kind of help them with their pitches when they were pitching to investors and stuff. So he would like go and do that and come back and like tell me about it. So I kind of heard it through my dad at first.
That's super cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So who do you think of when you hear the word entrepreneur? Would it be your dad then?
Not necessarily. I think as with many other people right now, when you hear the word entrepreneur, you think of like Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
For me though, I think it's mostly someone who has started something that has an impact on other people. So you don't have to be, doing something huge
Mhm.
and getting a ton of money, but like someone that has started something that helps people.
Cool. I like that. Awesome. Where'd you work last summer?
So I worked at Trials AI in San Diego. And so they're a clinical trials platform company, and so what they do is they've built this platform to enable clinical trials to be conducted across the country or over the world in an electronic way, because initially how the trial system works is it's all paper-based, so like sites would have to literally mail folders and folders of paperwork for each patient, which obviously takes way too much time, way too much money. And so the electronic way is a lot easier and a lot faster, which means the company saves money, the site saves money, and you get through the trial faster. And so their overarching goal is to use their data from the clinical trials that have been conducted to improve future clinical trial studies, because most of the clinical trials that fail because they're designed poorly.
So it's like creating almost like a literature on what went wrong to inform future trials, kind of?
It's more of like you're testing a drug similar to that drug that was tested, and
Right.
they screened patients for this, and this, and you have kind of missed that. So
That's
maybe
cool.
you would like to include that.
That's really great.
So you have a better success rate.
Sweet. So this was sort of a company, because like you study computer science and then you also study something more on like the integrate with like medicine and biology.
Yeah.
What was it like to work in a company at that
It's a
crossroad?
pretty perfect fit for your
Yeah,
studies.
so that's what I was really excited about, is that it combined both of my interests. And healthcare is always something I've wanted to be involved with and be a part of.
Right.
So it was really great to have that intersection and know that you're gonna have that kind of impact on real people. So
That's cool.
What ways do you think you were able to see like the direct impact?
So actually there was a clinical trial that we were studying that was going on when I was working there. And so because we're a really small company, we do customer service calls, so everyone's on a shift every day. So there's 2 shifts every day. So I was on a couple shifts, and you get calls from site leaders, which is basically like the clinical trial site.
Oh, cool.
And they're like the lead of those chunk of patients, basically. And so you get a call saying like, hey, I'm having trouble with the platform, like, how do I do this? And then you'd like fix it for them, and then be like, oh, great, thank you. And so like, you could, like, I
So
literally,
practical.
yeah, so I literally could hear the impact that we had on the
Yeah.
site leaders saying, hey, this is a lot easier.
That's
That's so
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
As a side note, I think everyone who works in the company should work in customer support for at least a little bit. Like, you learn so much about the company that
Yeah.
way, and like, you can't understand what to give your users if you're not speaking to your users. So that's
like
really
such
cool
a
that.
revolutionary thing in entrepreneurship too.
Yeah.
Like opposed to like more giant bureaucracies. Like a lot of times there's no communication between
Yeah.
like the consumer, the customer, and like
Yeah.
the company. But with
Which
startups,
leads to so much disconnect and like
right?
lack of understanding.
Totally. Yeah. No, that's cool. Sweet.
Great.
Good,
So,
good.
what do you think was like your least favorite and most favorite thing about working there?
I think my most favorite part was just the fact that like what I did would have direct impact.
Sure.
And so like I'd be like, hey, I have an idea. Maybe we should do this, or maybe we should consider this, and I'd be like, oh yeah, we should. And so like that would be carried out like almost immediately.
Yeah. Like.
Because there was like no structure to go through. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you were sitting across the table from the CEO.
Yeah.
So like that was really
Startups.
really great. Yeah. I think my least favorite part, I think it's kind of like the flip side of that, where because there's no structure, things can get a little bit loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
But like I definitely think with a startup, the good things outweigh the bad.
Sure.
For me
Yeah.
at least.
Right.
So.
So was your summer experience sort of transformative in a way that you know you want to continue with startups in the future? Like, is that the sort of culture that you want to be a part of?
Yeah, for sure. I really like the small team vibe. I really like everyone knowing each other. I like knowing what everyone is doing, just because it gives me like greater context to the company.
Yeah.
And like you know your place and you know your impact.
Totally. Cool. Cool. How do you think involvement with entrepreneurship has like, shaped your experience? Whether just your general life, the way you see things, or maybe your experience through education?
I definitely think that it's given me a lot of exposure to what entrepreneurship can look like. You know, like I said before, like it's not only Facebook, Amazon.
Right.
There's so many more people out there who are doing great things, who are entrepreneurs, who don't get the spotlight, who are still having great impact. And so like literally anyone can be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so that's like kind of like the big thing that I realized. And also like I've met so many people in the entrepreneurship ecosystem at Michigan, in Ann Arbor, and it's given me great friendships, it's given me great connections and great resources.
Totally.
So definitely it's kind of shaped a lot of my university experience.
Cool.
Awesome. So if you think back to like in all of your jobs, every like org you've been part of, who would you say was like your best boss? You don't need to like name names, but like who was your best boss and like what was their leadership style? Like what do you hope to learn from them and like emanate in the future when you're in a leadership position?
So I worked at a tinier startup my sophomore and junior year, and it was just my boss, me, and a third person.
Wow.
And it was like a company started out of my boss's PhD project. And so she was basically working to commercialize that. But her kind of leadership style was, I have complete faith in you, here is your thing, go do it. And so it really forced me to rise to the challenge and learn so much and like kind of have confidence in my abilities as well, because she did.
Totally.
And like obviously she was always open to like giving me help if I asked for it, like she'd always check in, but it was more of like, I trust you to do this properly, do it.
I think that's awesome. Like, just the fact that she started that out of, you know, her PhD project. Usually when you hear entrepreneur, I feel like you think, oh, like, just graduated college, like,
or dropped out
of college to, like, start a business, but it's cool that, you know, like, this intersection of, like, education and...
Yeah, it's really cool, and, like, it's really intense, like, it's, like, genetic based and stuff, so she's done like 6 years of her life on this, but it's really, really cool that she's going forward in this direction.
Yeah, so basically like you would say you like more just like having your leader trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely important.
Totally. Yeah, sorry, I'm just thinking about that. No, it's so true, because when in all this, that makes me just think in all the situations where I've felt a disconnect between me and my boss, or any kind of leader, there's definitely that lack of faith and trust both ways, you know? Yeah, that's so important. Cool. What do you think is like a good way to cultivate trust?
Ooh. I just think it's something that needs to be built over time. It's like it's just, I think it's also a matter of circumstance, like where you're at. Like if you're forced to trust a person and put blind faith in them, then that's just something that happens, and if they prove you right, your trust is automatically built.
True.
So I think, I mean, it's reliant on both parties.
Yeah.
But I think it's also just putting work in and showing up for that person.
Absolutely. Cool. Sweet. These are just more general, so just more fun. What are some things you want to learn more about?
Ooh, so much.
Yeah. Not that 2 majors and a minor has you lacking in learning, but
we can see that you like a lot of things.
Yeah, but like maybe outside of the classroom.
I'm like really interested in like psychology and like why humans behave the way they are, like evolutionarily. So that's something I really want to learn more about.
Cool.
On a more like serious kind of note, like because I really want to go in like to the healthcare field, I really want to learn more about the American healthcare system and how exactly that works, because it's very complicated. I don't understand it.
Me neither.
So like I want to, you know, get into the nitty-gritty of that and see like what can be done about it.
Totally.
So have you decided that you want to like sort of stay in like the American healthcare system in the future?
I definitely think that's what I want to do, or what I want to explore for a little bit. I mean, after that, who knows, you know.
How well do you think you know yourself?
No more theory.
I would say like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 knowing myself completely, I'd be like a 3 or a 4.
I mean, oh snap!
We'll
bleep that one out. Sponsored by the CFE.
Do you want my
3?
rationale behind that?
Yes. Okay, 3 out of 10.
Okay, so I'm like a very strong believer that like you learn about yourself through like putting yourself through really hard situations.
Sure.
And going through like life experiences. I'm 21. I haven't had a hard life. You know, I've come from a very privileged background. Getting into college was not easy, but like it happened. I don't have to worry about the finances, about my education. You know, I've had a very easy life. And so I don't think I've had those experiences to learn other things about myself.
Interesting.
So I think like, you know, I'll learn more about myself in the future, but at 21 I don't think I know myself very well.
Do you think there are like active steps you can take towards
Maybe you don't want to.
discover.
Do you want to know yourself? Like, that's a good question, but, you know.
Yeah, I do, and I think it's just like more of like putting yourself out there and putting yourself in experiences that make you uncomfortable and make you learn about other things. So
What
that
would
know
make you
how to-
uncomfortable? What do
Oh
you,
boy.
what do you have to, like, put yourself into?
I mean, I am just very socially awkward and socially anxious, and so putting myself in situations where like I need to meet new people
Sure.
and like talk to them is very uncomfortable for me, but
Mhm.
every time I do that I learn something.
True.
So
Don't you think you did that already though, by like moving to a different country and like starting a whole new life here and like going to school?
yeah, but making friends is different to like making friends with someone your age who's in the same situation as you are is
Yeah,
different
easier.
That's very
than
true.
trying to make that connection with someone who's more experienced than you, smarter than you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah, totally know what you mean.
So like that's like you're very like acutely aware of that imbalance and that lack of experience that you
Mhm.
have.
What's something, I'm trying to think of the best way to word this. Okay, so like you say you're not super self-aware, but for the part of yourself that you do know, you know,
Okay.
what's something that you really, well, not that you're not self-aware, that you don't know yourself as well as you will in the future. What's something that you know about yourself for sure that you really like?
That I really like about myself.
Mm-hmm. I can think of a lot of things, but I'd like to hear you say.
I'd like to think that I know how to show up for people, or like the people that I love, and make sure that they know that they're loved.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple friends, you know, tell me in like deep conversations late in the night that like they love how comfortable I make them feel and how they know that I'm always there for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Would agree.
Also would agree. Cool. What's the last thing that kept you up at night?
This is a tough question.
And it doesn't have to be like
I'm
something.
gonna be honest with you, that 45 project that I had to do on Friday, that kept me up.
Yeah.
That kept me up.
See, that's a perfectly fine answer. Cool.